Thank you, Michael. So I'm going to share my screen, and I think I'm also absent-minded because I nearly forgot that I was the one that elected to share their screens. I was also going to mention if anyone has any questions, about the student leaders cohort and the Institute for Leadership in Action. The three of us are members, as Michael mentioned, and we're happy to chat with any of you guys about it and some of our experiences. I think I can speak for the three of us that it's been a really pleasant experience. So in any case, jumping right into things, today we're going to be speaking about communication and professional networking. My name is Mitan Chanis, and I am a senior. I study psychology, urban studies, and economics. And as I said, I'm a member of the Institute for Leadership in Action, but a few other clubs and organizations on campus.
Hey guys, I'm Kate. I know a few of you already. I'm also a member of our student leaders cohort. I'm a junior, and I'm not only am I a part of Institute for Leadership in Action, but also like the Honors College Criminal Justice Organization. So if you guys ever have any questions about those, feel free to reach out.
And hi, everyone. My name is Lonnie Cruz Stokes. I am a senior majoring in criminal justice. I am also a part of the Institute for Leadership and Action cohort, as well as a part of Civic Scholars and the Honors College. So before we get started on discussing, the importance of communication and networking, we decided that we wanted to do a little bit of an activity to kind of to break the ice, and to kind of, start thinking about, the different elements of what it means to be a good communicator. So for this activity, it's called 10 words or fewer. And we want you all to think of a book, movie, or TV show and describe the plot in 10 words or less. And questions that we want you to consider is, can your audience determine the story that you are trying to tell them in, those 10 words or fewer? And can anyone describe that same story in using fewer words? So I'll give you a few moments to kind of think about a book, movie, or TV show that you can describe in 10 words or less, and then we can open it up for anyone who would like to share or give it a try.
And while they're thinking, I thought maybe we could give them an example. Kate and Melanie, I know that we did this earlier in the Institute for Leadership and Action, and one of the things we did was describe friends. So maybe one of y'all could describe friends in 10 or fewer words.
I'm like, I mean, I guess the shortest way I can say is I don't know how old they were, but maybe like middle-aged group of friends who like to joke a lot.
Okay, so keep in mind, you guys, and we're going to turn it over to you, but make sure not to use the title of the of whatever it is that you're describing in your explanation. But that was a good example that could maybe help you figure out what the show is about. Something else you can say is a group of individuals in a coffee shop in Central Park. And that's another way to kind of trigger that. But we'll turn it over to you guys if anyone wants to just unmute and try to describe one of those three in 10 words or less.
So I see someone put in the chat, a girl becomes a reluctant revolutionary against an oppressive government. And Michael guessed that is the Hunger Games. Yep. That was the Hunger Games. And you were able to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Less than 10 words for that. So that was a really good example of describing the Hunger Games. Anyone else want to give it a try? Or can anyone try and describe the Hunger Games in less words? Okay, Michael put Space Orphan gets laser sword and joins a rebellion. And Melanie guessed Star Wars. Okay, cool. So this activity is not as easy as it seems, and it really pushes you to really think outside of the box and trying to, limit the number of words that you say in order to describe something. So we can go on to the next slide. So when we talk about the communication process, it's very important to also consider what are the different things that can impact the communicator as well as the audience that they're trying to communicate with. So when we think about a communicator, we also have to consider that individual's worldview. So thinking about those external and internal influences that shape how they convey what they're trying to convey to other people. And in taking all of those different influences, they put into their communication, and then they provide that same information to their audience. And when the audience is receiving of that communication from the individual, they are also being influenced by their own external and internal influences as well. You can go on to the next slide. So in the first activity that we did, it really pushed you to, think about how you can communicate and, with a limited amount of words, and, just really thinking about how can you best convey your point in such a short and limited amount of space. So when we think about communication, it's really important that you consider these 5 C's in order to be effective in communicating. And so the first C that we're going to talk about is being clear. So your communication should involve both a point and a purpose. When you're communicating with other people, it shouldn't get lost what the main point of you communicating with that individual is. So it's really important that, before you speak with other people, that you really have an understanding of the point that you're trying to get across when you're speaking. And the second C is being concise. So only sharing the information that is necessary to make your point and accomplish your purpose. Because otherwise, I know for me, when I start talking, sometimes I go on a tangent about other things which weren't really relevant to what I was trying to talk about in the first place. So being concise in your communication is also very important. And the third C is being coherent. Your communication should be framed to make sense to your intended audience, and it should also be logically and rhetorically sound. And then the fourth C is consistency. So focusing your communication on the topic at hand and not deviating away from your point or purpose. So this also coincides with the second C that we talked about with being very concise. And the fifth C is being contextual. So being mindful of your audience and sensitive to how they might interpret your words in light of differences in positionality. So just having that cultural awareness of, who your audience is, and making sure, that you're saying things that may not offend other people while in the process. And so one of the things when we talk about communication, especially effective communication in practice, is what's called the elevator pitch. And the elevator pitch is a brief but clear summary of an idea that can be communicated in a short period of time. So usually it's about 30 seconds or the length of an elevator ride. And an alternative framing of looking at it is, how would I communicate my point in a tweet? So for most of us that are on Twitter, we know that, Twitter has a character limit. So similar to like the elevator pitch, we only have a limited amount of time or a limited amount of words where we can convey our, different ideas or topics that we'd like to discuss. So some questions to consider as you frame an elevator pitch is, how would you introduce yourself if you only had about 30 seconds to pitch who you are? And, for us that are in the ILA cohort, we also have to consider, sharing our passion project, or it doesn't even have to be a passion project. It could also be, a different proposal that you have for any class. So just taking into consideration, how can I best convey what I'm trying to convey in a limited amount of time? And one of the key points that we want to get across with effective communication as well, it's all about trials and tribulations. So, you try it once, you work your way through, you try to rephrase it, just to best see if it fits within that time frame. And, being as specific and concise as possible, practicing it because practice makes perfect, and also refining it if necessary along the way. So those are just some of the very key points, whenever you get an opportunity to ever have to do an elevator pitch, is just keeping those 4 different things in mind when doing that. And we can go on to the next slide.
I believe we did. The previous slide was that. So I switched over to here.
Sorry, I didn't see that. And so thinking about effective listening. So the other side of communication, when we're not the person that is speaking and getting across our points, when we're listening. So some of those critical questions we need to ask ourselves is, what is the message that is being communicated? Are we really engaging and listening to what the person is trying to convey to us? And also considering what are those internal and external factors that may be influencing how the speaker is communicating. So different examples that we gave previously is, talking about those internal and external influences. We all have our own individual lives where different things impact us in different ways. So also just keeping in mind how the speaker could be influenced by those different factors and could also influence how they communicate with us as we are listening to them. And another critical question to ask ourselves is what internal, external factors may be influencing how I am receiving the message. So as we said previously, as the audience, we are also influenced by internal and external factors that can impact how we receive the information that is being communicated to us. So also keeping those in mind and also just being culturally aware of all of those different things. And the last question is, what thoughts, questions do I have about the message being communicated? So it's also very important then as part of the audience that you're actively listening and engaging with what the communicator is saying to us. Because you don't want to just be sitting there and just hearing the person, not actually listening to them. So also just keeping in mind and trying to engage with what the speaker is trying to convey to their audience as well is very important.
And so the next part of our presentation is really going to focus a lot more on professional networking. We're all in college. A lot of us are just starting out our careers, and it's really important to get connected with a wide variety of people and really grow your networking base. And so before I go on to the next slide, if you guys can just give me a thumbs up, how many of you have heard the phrase, it's not what you know, but who you know? So you can just raise your hand or give me a thumbs up. Yeah, lots of thumbs up. That phrase is true. I really believe in it. It really is, to move on into your career and to get to the job that you want, it really is not what you know, but who you know, because that can really help you get connected to all these opportunities so that you can increase what you know as well, right? And so before we sort of share any other information, I wanted to start with this fun activity. And it does look like we have a little bit of time. So we're going to give you an example. Follow along, maybe draw it out yourself with another piece of paper and a pen. But we'll give you an example that you can certainly take back and do afterwards. So I'm going to try my best here to annotate. Oh, I can't quite annotate. All right. Should have practiced this before. We'll say it verbally instead of drawing it just to make things easier. The idea of the social mapping activity is to really visualize who you know and who you know that knows someone else. I really believe that anyone that is here can easily get connected with me, right? After our conversation is over, you can chat with me, you can email me, but then I know a bunch of other individuals, right? And it doesn't take me that long to reach out to those individuals and connect them with you. But then those individuals might know other individuals as well that could get connected with you. And so this activity, what it's meant to do is really show you just how wide your network base is. So all that said, I wish I could draw it for you, but we will kind of verbally say it. We have an example for you with Milani, and then certainly you can take that example back and try it yourself. So Milani, I'm just gonna ask you a list of questions, and if you could just verbally say them to us. So let's start with this. I know that you're not currently on it, but for a very long time you were serving in Define American, which is a student organization on campus. Is that correct?
Yes.
Cool. How many people sit on that e-board?
6 people.
6 people. So that's already 6 people that you know that are interested in the field of immigration rights, which is what you're interested in as well, right? Let's focus on one person. Let's choose one of the e-board members.
Tanya Martinez.
Love Tanya. All right. Tell me one person that Tanya knows about from the field of immigration rights.
Tanya knows an immigrant rights attorney who actually does a lot of advocacy work in Philadelphia to shut down the family detention center there.
Okay. And through your time in Define American, you've worked with that lawyer or consulted for their advice?
Yes.
Great. Tell me someone that they know that you or Tanya may not know.
That attorney actually knows another immigrant rights attorney in California, and their name is Angela Santos.
Okay. And does Angela know of someone, again, in the field that you may not know of?
Yes, of course. She probably knows a whole bunch of other immigrant rights attorneys in California.
Cool. So have you ever gotten connected with Angela?
No, I have not.
Cool. All right. But you said that that attorney knows Angela really well, so all it takes for you is to just ask Tanya to ask him to get us connected with that lawyer in California.
Yes.
Cool. Let's do a few more examples, and then we'll move on with the rest of the presentation. So let's talk about Sam Tuero. Also love that guy. Sam started the Define American chapter. We're just sticking with Define American, but Milani is connected in many other places in her life. So who does Sam Tuero know, let's say from the Biden-Harris team, that might be of interest?
Sam knows the campaign organizer that worked with campaigning in Pennsylvania.
Okay, and that campaign organizer knows who?
They know someone who would be higher up than them. Someone closer to, Biden and Harris.
Cool. Not saying that you'll be able to get connected with Biden or Harris eventually, but the point is that they know a lot of people within that sphere, and I'm sure they also know a lot of grassroots organizers because they've had to work with them in terms of the campaign process and just throughout their careers. So those are just a few examples out of many. I mean, Milani knows me, and I know a few more individuals as well that I'm happy to connect Milani with. And so really what this activity looks like, if I was able to draw it for you, is exactly this picture. You've got this person in the middle that's then connected with that person, and that person is then connected with this person, and this person is connected with them, and at the end they could get connected back with him, but only because he knows these groups of people that kind of got them to that person to begin with. So essentially, if you do this back at home, and then I promise we'll go on to the next slide, you'll draw yourself in the middle, your name in a circle, and then you'll draw a few other individuals that you know, and then you'll draw circles connected to them. And you'll see really easily in how quickly that social web grows and how connected you really are. Because like I said, I really believe that all my connections are your connections. It's just that simple.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and talk about leadership networking and really like the key elements to networking. So the one I have is be sincere. You know, helping others and being knowledgeable is very important. Trying to help others, which leads us to sharing resources. So reciprocating that favor when people, you know, share resources with you. So we just had the example here with Nitan and Milani, where you know they could do the favor for each other, letting you know some opportunities, whether it be research or you know any internship opportunities, or sharing a certain connection that you have with another person, giving that you know contact information so that you can contact that person in case you need to. And so it's very important to share your resources and be able to give back when someone gives to you. So then when you do this, you have a power, right? You have the power to, you know, network with others, come up with different opportunities, and you use this power thoughtfully. So you network, but then it also reflects on yourself, right? It makes you reflect on yourself. You have a reputation that comes from that. It continues to build on, right? So we talked about Milani and her experience with Define American. Everything just keeps on building up and building up that experience, those people she knows. Everything just ties in with each other. And so we build alliances, right? We talk with each other. I know a lot of us on campus end up speaking with each other to find American. And for example, to bring in criminal justice organization, one person meets and then we get the two organizations to possibly do a collaboration, to share different resources, to post and share each other's events, and that way we can promote and either gain a larger audience, leading to more networking. Then we communicate skillfully. We are aware, we are knowledgeable, and we make others aware of intentions. I'm sorry, with intention to accomplish their goals, right? So we accomplish our own goals while we help others accomplish theirs. And of course, you know, we do things like give them each other, give each other contact information in order for people to either reach out, obtain new opportunities, and see what is in store for their personal goals. Um, this ties in with meeting new people, right? So when we meet new people, we decide whether or not, you know, we would like to continue having this interaction. And most of the time, we do want to continue having this interaction, right? Because in order to network, we continue communicating. And being a savvy negotiator, sometimes it's being aware and knowing when to push and when to hold back. So sometimes, you know, you have to agree to disagree, disagree overall. It's really a skill that is needed. And it happens in our careers where sometimes we have to decide to hold back, even when we don't want to, or when we want to, you know, be a part of something so bad, or when we want to help someone so bad. But sometimes it's a great skill, because that way it'll definitely help you in the end. It'll help you in future experiences, and it'll help you in your career. Lastly, we manage lastly, we manage conflict. And we that way we appreciate the two views, right? We meet new people, and then when we meet new people, we discuss different ideas, different propositions, and that way we are able to really communicate and discuss what comes good, what comes bad from it, and that way we are able to see each other's perspectives, right? Some people might prefer one thing while the other one doesn't, but it's very good. That's when the being a savvy negotiator comes in, and it really just all ties in order to really network, gain experience, gain contacts, and it'll definitely help later on in the future.
I know sometimes it can be intimidating to reach out to someone new. And so before I go over these resources, I just want to say these two things. First of all, think about it. Every single one of your friends was at some point a stranger. And if you did not reach out to them, or if they did not reach out to you in the lunch counter, in recess, wherever that was, you may not be friends today, and you may not have all these wonderful memories with them. So you got over that and you were able to connect with them, and that was really a good experience, right? And so that's true for your professors, it's true for your counselors, it's true for your mentors, your coworkers. Everyone was a stranger at some point, but crossing over that barrier has hopefully been a really good experience for you. The other thing that I want to mention is that we are, as students at Rutgers University, a ton of alumni want to be able to help you. A ton of people in the field want to be able to share their advice and expertise. And in the next slide, I'll be speaking about how you, what you want to do is just like have a quick coffee meeting with individuals. And so I'll get to that in just a little bit, but know that when it comes to those kind of meetings, that's a lot of them talking and you listening, and people love talking about themselves. So I promise that it might seem a little intimidating at first, but it's really rewarding, and they will overwhelmingly be willing to help. And so a couple of resources that I really want you all to fully be aware of. There is a website called careerconnect.rutgers.edu, and this is where all Rutgers students can join on. It's another social media platform, so to speak, but it has also alumni from Rutgers, New Brunswick, Newark, and Camden. And on that website, you can get connected directly with the alumni. So you can write a message like, you know, my name is Nitan Chanis, I'm a senior at Rutgers majoring in such and such, and I'd love to hear more about the career of, you know, housing policy. So I put that on there, and then a few people actually got connected with me, and I had some coffee interviews that came out of that. So that's an easy place to get connected with alumni, and like I said, they love to help. Another thing that you should be aware of is Handshake. That's more of a sort of career platform, but it's a way for you to find out more information about what internships and jobs are available. So do keep that in mind. I'll jump on to the fourth bullet point, and then I'll go back to the third because I just want to share an example. So I'll click on the link. So just bear with me about that. But like I said, in the social mapping activity, I am willing to help, staff are willing to help, faculty are willing to help, and your other friends and peers are willing to help, right? Use these connections. There are a ton of connections throughout this campus alone, and you definitely want to use those to your advantage because it could really be rewarding. So like I said, I'm going to click here on this link. Bear with me if my computer is a little bit slow. First of all, if you don't have a LinkedIn yet, hit me up afterwards. We should definitely talk about it more because I think everyone should have a LinkedIn. It's a really great tool. But what I want to show you specifically is what you could do is actually look up a university. So for instance, Rutgers University, and there's this alumni tab. As I said, alumni love to help. So if you go to Rowan University, it may not be as helpful as if you go to your own university, but alumni love to help current students from that university. Milani said that she's interested in immigration. So I'm literally going to look up the word immigration and see what alumni work in that sphere. So that means that the word immigration is put somewhere in their title or somewhere else in their profile, right? And so not going to worry about where they live part, but I will click here on where they work. And specifically, I am interested in how the field of, you know, how the Office of Department of Homeland Security, like I'm interested to learn more about that space and what kind of work I could potentially do. So what I did was click on that, and then it shows, I clicked on the wrong one. Sorry about that. So again, I'm interested in working at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, curious to see what that's like. I clicked on it, and here are 6 alumni that currently work in that department. And all you have to do is then just click message and send them a message. And so I will not send them a message because this is not my area of expertise. But I will hop to an earlier chat where I did this with the Department of Housing and Urban Development because I am interested in working there. So this is an alumni, I think, graduated from Rutgers, New Brunswick, and I just hit her up. She is a high-level, manager in the Department of Housing and Urban Development. I'll just read this out loud really quickly. Hi, Henrietta. It was a pleasure. Oh, nope. That's not my initial message. I don't remember where my initial message was, so never mind. You send an initial message to those folks, and you just explain, hi, my name is blah blah blah. I am a Rutgers student. I'm really interested, to learn about the field of housing policy and how the work is like at the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Would you have a 30-minute session for us to grab some coffee and talk about this further? Or go on Zoom and talk about this further now that we are online. But it's as simple as that, and I did end up having a really great conversation with her, and that's just one alumni out of several that I did that with. So definitely use the alumni capability in LinkedIn. And so, great, you've reached out to the people, you have identified people that you're interested in learning more about their careers, but what next? What questions do I ask? Luckily, we have a link here for you to look up all sorts of questions that you can ask during that interview. We'll share this link via the chat at the end of the meeting, but you could also just look up some questions online. The one question that you must ask, in my humble opinion, is this one here at the bottom, which is, could you recommend a couple more people for me to speak with to learn more about fill in the blank, right? So in my case, to learn more about housing policy or what it's like to work in the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Sometimes doing a cold call in LinkedIn can be challenging. Not everyone checks that on a regular basis, but once you connect with that person and you've made a good impression, they're happy to connect you with a few more people. And then it's so much easier to get connected, right? Because the next person that they connect you with, you can ask that same question at the end of the interview. And that's how you can really grow your professional network.
Okay, so we move on to the skills professionals need. So obviously, we all have a goal in mind, right? And we're all trying to reach this goal. Later in our life, when we end up graduating and going into a career, right, we're considered professionals. So we talked about, one of the C's being clear, right? So we have clarity. Again, to reiterate, we were talking about how you must know the subject you're speaking about, what you want to ask. For example, Nitan specifically has the questions in line that they want to ask in order to get great answers, to keep these answers in mind for the future. Then we have respect, right? So obviously we all know that we show a form of respect when speaking, showing that we should be respected, showing just respect overall in order for us to better understand each other, enjoy each other's company, and enjoy continuing to have these conversations. So we look at listening and speaking, right? We all say sometimes, sometimes it's better to listen than to speak, or first listen and then speak, right? So listening is definitely important. It's definitely a skill professionals have to get used to. I know, for example, myself, when I was younger, I would just talk and talk and talk, and then you go and you rant, and then you don't really listen to what others have to say. But it's very important to listen to what others have to say in order to gain that knowledge from other people's perspective, from their own ideas, from their own thoughts, or different concepts that you might not have understood previous to finally listening. It's very important to be confident. When we all speak to professionals or are professionals ourselves, it's important to rely on yourself, to know information, to be confident, and to show that confidence. I know, and for example, when you are looking for jobs, it's important for the people, the supervisors, the managers, the people who give you these opportunities to know that you are confident enough to get the work done, to bring in more audience, to do the tasks that you set out yourself to do. It's very important to ask questions. I know in the previous slide, we laid out a specific question for you guys. in order for you guys to gain that knowledge and continue to know what questions to ask, right? So we talked about how the question being, what other people can you connect me with? It can be, what else do you think I should know about this job? Or what else do you think I should look into? Who else should I connect with? There's a lot of questions out there. And of course, with the link that we provided for you guys, you would be able to see what important questions you can ask. We all say, at new jobs, you should ask, I know on Instagram, when I go on Instagram, I see all these professional videos, and there's so many questions that you can ask from the supervisor's perspective, for example. So not more so for myself, but from them. What do they think? What do they think I should do? Right. And then we use appropriate language. So the language we use is obviously clear. We talk about all these different concepts and make sure people understand us, right? They understand our ideas, our concepts, anything we have to say. I believe the language is important. That way it definitely communicates to them. Empathy. We want to understand, right? So we want to have these conversations and understand each other. We want to, like, again, talk about each other's perspectives, see how we're doing, see how we take this in, and understand the ideas, the concepts. Public speaking, very important skill. We all do this. We all get nervous. We all take classes. Maybe there's specific classes to take in order to gain that confidence, right? That ties in with confidence. Being able to speak in public or with colleagues. When you're comfortable when speaking to a larger audience, imagine what it'll be like just having a one-on-one conversation. It's going to be far better, far more precise, far more, engaging, and definitely a skill that we all want to improve on. But like we said earlier, practice makes perfect. You can only, gain all this powerful skills in public speaking when you're able to have a great conversation with one-on-one conversation with the person, and then we want to remain positive. Don't look at the negative side of things. We want to see what can come from these experiences, from these connections, and we want to continue moving on and towards positivity, making it something good enough to reward us in the end. And then, of course, we want to continue learning. I hear doctors all the time say, I never stop studying, right? I never stop looking at my information, because we want to keep on learning. Not only do things change over the years, but we learn new ways to have these skills. We learn a new way to show respect or have respect. We learn a new way to be confident. There's different ways in which we all can gain this confidence and learn how to implement these and also teach others. When we learn, we teach. And then when we teach others, of course, it builds a greater community. So to tie everything up, right? We want to become clear, concise. Remember the 5 C's we spoke about earlier. Coherent and confident. That way we're able to network for new opportunities, new experiences, new concepts. We learn from each other. It's not possible, right? Like Nitan said, at one point we were all strangers to each other. But now when we all meet each other, we're able to come into this community where we share all these different ideas. We looked at the map earlier. There's one person over here while there's a whole totally different person over there. We may or may not have the same career goals, but we will share opportunities, share ideas. So to list an example, our cohort, for Institute Leadership in Action, we all have a chat, right? We send flyers of new internship opportunities, UCLA opportunities. We also share new organizations where leaders of our cohort keep can join. And then that way, when they join, we all meet, of course, again, new people. It all ties in with each other. Then we have communication skills, which lead individuals to ask in-depth questions about subjects, career fields, jobs, scholarships, and more. The communication is very important, all ties in together. When we communicate, we learn how to network and really gain, like I said, experiences and connections. And that way we're able to improve each other's career goals and help each other reach those goals.
I also want to add one more thing, just tying going off of what Kate was talking about, tying communication and networking, and also what Natan said earlier. You never know who other people know, and just to share a personal experience, when I was working at the gym on campus, one of my coworkers, her mother was really good friends with this attorney, and she was actually looking for an intern. And so one day, I wasn't really close to this coworker, but we just began talking during one of our shifts that we had together, and she had just briefly mentioned that this attorney was looking for an intern. And she connected me with that attorney, and I went in for an interview, and I've been at that job ever since. And she also happens to be a Rutgers alumni, so it's just really important that you just socialize with people, because you never know, like I said before, who you're going to meet. And Rutgers alumni are always very open with helping other people and just seeing young people become successful like they are. So I think it's just really important that you use the people, well, not use, but just communicating with the people within your own networks, meeting those people that they know, and just connecting with other people, and just building upon your personal and professional network, because you never know when you're looking for an opportunity or you're not looking for an opportunity and something just happens to fall in front of your feet. So I would just want to emphasize that point.
And then just to show you where we got our information from, here's our works cited. But yes, to bounce off of Milani's point, definitely socialize and get to know people. I know I had the same exact experience. I was in high school mock trial, and my coach, my mock trial coach, ended up knowing a prosecutor. I ended up, hitting it off with the prosecutor, and after my freshman year, my first year of college, she offered me an internship, and then I was able to go into for an interview and get that internship, right? So definitely, you don't know how an opportunity will land literally right at your feet. So definitely take the chances that you can take and talk and share your experiences, share what you've been through, because everyone can relate in a different way.
All right, so that was quite a bit of information that we threw your way and personal narratives. I'm going to stop sharing the screen so that I could look for that link, but also to see all your beautiful faces. We'd love to field some questions from you, and certainly I can bring up the presentation again if you had something where you wanted me to go to a specific slide. Just let me know. Feel free to unmute and ask the question. If you'd prefer to write it in a chat, totally cool as well. And I'll pull up the link meanwhile that I promised.
So we have a question in the chat. What's your next option if you do everything right, but just don't vibe with the person you're speaking to? My personal opinion on that is I would ask for new contacts. For who else do you think I should speak to? Who else do you think can help me with this? And then, you never know. They might put you in contact with another person and you hit it off, right, with them. And then, not to say, forget the other person, but really appreciate and thank them for connecting you to this new resource. And then later in life, you'd never know, right? They might be able to help you again, even if you don't vibe with them. So I believe definitely just get a new contact possibly, and then later come back to the old contact and see what maybe new experiences or new ideas you can talk about so that they can help you maybe the next time.
do you have any tips for building up your confidence when you communicate? Because you said quite a few times it's hard, but how do you just get over that and how do you be confident?
Yeah, so I'll field that, and then I'd love to see if either Kate or Melania have something else to add to it. I think for me, it's two things. First of all, just realizing that the other person that you're speaking with, they might also be really nervous. And if not, they were at your position and they were at a time nervous as well, right? So they understand you. And because they understand you, it's as simple as telling them at the beginning, I got to be honest, I'm a little bit nervous right now. Speaking with you today, I'm really glad that we had this chance. I just figured I'd let you know, and just kind of breaking the ice, not trying to pretend that you are overly confident here, but instead just being honest. I think that breaks the ice and does start to help you feel more comfortable in that sort of space.
I agree with Natan. I'll be honest, when I was a freshman and I attended different like networking sessions, I was very antisocial. I did not like talking to people and I was afraid of like being put on the spot all the time. But one thing that actually really helped me, believe it or not, is a grad student actually gave me advice that, this idea of getting like business cards and that kind of like breaking like the ice and the nervousness like when you're networking with people, because a lot of people, especially professionals in their own respective fields, they don't expect, college students to have a business card. And it's not even something that has to be, intricate where you put like your job and everything. It could be as simple as, your name, what school you go to, your major and minor, and like what year you're graduating. And so you can always get them. I think you can get them on 500 prints on Vistaprint for about $7. But that also really helped build my confidence because, it was kind of like when I would give them my business card, they would kind of be like, wow, like this person is very, has a lot of confidence and is very professional enough to, have their own business card to just hand out to people. And they see that as something being very impressive and not very common among college students. So I would encourage you to also do that because that really helped me with, building my confidence. And, my friends would make fun of me about having business cards, but I'd be like, hey, I don't care. It kind of like helps me break the ice because, even though I'm a lot more social than I used to be my freshman year, there are still those times where I get a little bit nervous, but, handing out those business cards are helpful. But that would be something that would be very helpful, once the pandemic is over and we can, be face to face and physically hand out business cards. So.
Looks like we have a question from Lizette.
Yeah, I had a question and I'm sorry for interrupting. I was gonna ask her, what would you exactly put on these business cards? If I'm sorry if it's like a weird question, my bad. Like, what would you put on the business cards?
No, it's a good question. So for mine, I just put, and there's different designs and templates that you can go off of. So for me, I want to go into legal profession because I want to be an attorney. And so like my theme was kind of like law. And so like I had like the Lady of Justice on my business card, but really it was just very simple. I just had, my full name, Rutgers University, Camden, class of 2021, and my major and minor. And then it also had, my Rutgers email as well as my cell phone number on there, just in case people wanted to get in contact with me.
So
that's
actually
anything extra. What was
that? Oh no, I said that's actually really, really good. Thank you. Now I'm actually thinking of doing the same if that's all right. That's actually really good. I didn't really think about doing it because I usually because I do remember like for my dad's company we do have business cards for the company, so I thought it was only for companies or like businesses or something like that. I never thought about doing just one by myself, like one for me. But that's actually really, really smart, and thank you.
You're welcome. Let me go see if I can actually find an example. I'll be right back. But you guys can keep talking and asking questions.
I believe Milani did it through Vistaprint. I'll put the company down in the chat. That's what I did it through as well, and I think I overheard Milani say that. It's as Milani said, it's relatively cheap. It's $7 for like a pack of 500, and you could design it directly online on Vista's website. It's really user friendly. That's how I did mine. And actually mine, so I'm a part of Civic Scholars, which is a program here on campus. And so I put the Civic Scholars logo. I said Rutgers Camden Civic Scholars. I put my name, phone, email, and the website of the Office of Civic Engagement. So if you guys are part of any student organizations, you could do it like that as well, or just a generic, one about yourself like Milani did. There are multiple ways to go by it.
So I don't know if you can see it, but this is what mine looks like. It's backwards, but just to give you an idea.
That looks really nice.
Looks great.
Thank you.
Okay, so I do want to be mindful of the time. We have about 2 more minutes if anyone had a last question.
Well, thank you guys for coming out and listening to us. And of course, if you don't want to ask your question in front of others, feel free to stay and we'll go ahead and answer those for you. We do have another question in the chat. Do people care how you dress when you speak to them? That's a very good question. So I personally believe that it's a setting thing, right? It depends where you are. I would say sometimes maybe you saw someone in ShopRite. I don't think they'll really penalize you that for that, but I do believe that if you go to, of course, interviews or if you go into a setting and decide, let me stop by their office and see if I can just chat it up with them a little bit. I don't necessarily believe you always have to be professionally dressed, but I believe you have to act professional, and that's what matters. I just don't believe that people will technically judge you off what you're wearing, but of course, if you're in this setting in which you should be dressed professionally, of course, do so.
I want to echo what Kate said, about acting professionally. And also another tip that I heard about, I think through a YouTube video, when it comes to interviews specifically, look on their website, look at their Meet the Team page, see how they're dressed. And that tells you what the culture of the organization is and maybe how you should come to the interview. So that was it's all about context. That was one of the C's. So that's definitely another tip that I would keep in mind. But yeah, no, it is 6 o'clock. So as Kate mentioned, we are going to stick around just a few more minutes in case you wanted to ask us any personal questions. But otherwise, thank you all for attending. We hope that you got something out of this. And I look forward to getting connected with each of you guys.
And we hope to see some new student